My name is Patrick Doyle, reporting with the Daily Aztec. I'm sitting here with certified financial planner and congressional candidate for California's 49th District, Brian Maryott. Mr. Maryott, thank you so much for sitting down with me this morning.
My pleasure, Patrick. Please call me Brian.
All right. The first question I want to ask you is about an issue, of course, very important to me and other students alike. It's about student debt. Last year, NBC7 Investigates postulated that based on data from the National Student Loan Average, over 400,000 San Diegans likely still have student loan debt. Now, I know you yourself have had to pay off student loan debt in the past, so you likely understand how difficult it can be to pay back these loans when interest rates are incredibly high. You mentioned on your website that you will, quote, fight for more flexible terms for repayment in both federal and private and student loans, end quote. What exactly does this entail when you say you will fight for more flexible terms of repayment?
Sure. So there's really three issues with regard to student debt and the load that young folks come away with. One is price, of course, of an education. Two is planning, and obviously we have to do as much planning as we can. But the college lending terms in this country versus where they could be, I think, are very, very inflexible. So I believe that where the federal government is involved, we have two problems, really. One is we're not using enough leveraging power with the federal government to accommodate very, very flexible terms, number one. And number two, we've taken all competition out of the marketplace. So when the previous administration made that change, we withdrew a lot of lenders who, although it was low margin lending for them, meaning that it wasn't real fat profit margins, they still were motivated to do it and they could provide some flexibility of terms. So we've lost all that as well. I believe that the federal government needs to look at the guaranteed student lending program as an investment in our children's future, our young people's future, and let them treat it that way when they go to pay it off. So rather than so much deferral, which becomes very problematic, and even the interest rates today are problematic, they should be able to do interest only, and the maturity should be set as long as 40 years. Now, at a glance, that sounds long to you. Good Lord, I'm going to take 40 years to pay off my college education. But the idea is to give you the flexibility so that you can look at it as just a very marginal cost that sort of puts you in business as a professional or in your career, if you will. The difference between paying interest only and paying on a 15-year amortization is quite a bit on a monthly payment. If you owe $100,000 at roughly 4% and you opt for interest only for 6 months while you go back to school, or while you're unemployed, or while you're making a change in the career marketplace, if you will, or the job marketplace, you have the ability to just flip a switch and you're interest only for those periods of months, and then your payment's only about $300. So we have to leverage federal resources better than we are. The federal government is the ultimate central bank and has access to money at virtually no cost. And we have to use that again and bring more lenders in the marketplace so we can have the best possible terms. And we have to be a little more discerning with our college and university environment. For the last 20 years, we've had 500% inflation in the cost of education, while almost nothing, even the price of a car, has gone up by much at all, perhaps 2% average inflation, if that. And so that's really, really painful. And a couple of things helped that happen. One was the guaranteed student loan program and just the availability of cash, and then was opening it up more to seats internationally that put a competition out there for seats in the colleges and universities. So we have to look at all of that and a little more creativity. Purdue has a 3-semester program that allows people to finish in 3 years. They haven't gone up in their tuition in about 10 years. So we need to ask the college and university environment to do more, to create more opportunity for education to be more modestly priced. They're often referred to as not-for-profits, but they have incredible endowment funds. So they do essentially feed a profit-like vehicle, and we need to address that and ask more of them so that we can provide better terms for folks and more comfortable opportunity to get educated and pay for it comfortably.
So on a related note, you've also said that you support introducing and expanding tuition reimbursement. So does this mean you believe the government should expand its efforts to help people pay for higher education?
Well, the states are doing a very good job. In California, it's almost free to go to community college. And I think every state, all 50 states have the ability to create programs to their state, draw students to their state, and they should have the maximum opportunity to do that. Anywhere the federal government gets involved in paying off student debt, it's a little bit of fool's gold, right? It's all borrowed money. Every nickel that the government spends right now beyond the core budget of about $3.5 trillion is borrowed money from your future, Patrick, and your fellow students. And that's more pain for you down the road when you go to buy your first home, your dream car, and begin to do the things that set your course in life. So I think some of the things that would involve the federal government relieving debts directly are a little bit of a fool's gold. But I think states have a lot of flexibility. I think we'll see more competition in the states for quality students and families, and I think that will be helpful. And then I think we can have a lot of flexibility when people make a career change with their schooling later in life.
So your idea for tuition reimbursement isn't directly paying people back. It's changing the environment of student loan debt repayment so that it's easier for people to pay back their own debt.
Yeah, and incentivizing it. But any time the federal government is relieving, paying debt directly, and it's not in a lending program, it's just borrowed money, and it's borrowed from you.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. The next question is about homelessness. Before the pandemic hit, I've been around San Diego talking with voters, as I'm sure you have as well. And the main issue I consistently hear people voice their concern about is homelessness. What do you think the role of government should be in ending the homelessness crisis? And how will Congressman Maryott reduce the population of homeless in the 49th District?
Well, so I'm a government minimalist, and I think government has to put guardrails in place, and then and pretty much let people live their lives. I mean, that's my general philosophy. However, the government does have a duty to care for those who would otherwise fall through the cracks. We have really three issues that play into what is an acute homelessness situation now. One is, truly acute economic distress. I think it's a very small percentage of the problem and the challenge, but it does exist out there. We have untreated and undiagnosed mental illness, and that is a major part of the issue for us. And where that comes.
Would you support increased funding for mental health services?
Yes. And
Okay.
And the third is addiction, the terrible illness of addiction. Now, let's just talk California specific for a moment. In California, we have a problem since Prop 347 that we've been unable to get our arms around people when they use Class 1 drugs. These are real poisonous drugs. So literally, they are killing themselves, Patrick. They're pouring poison into their veins and their bodies, and these are not, these are not your father's drugs. And at the end of the day, this is very highly poisonous, toxic drugs, and these people are just getting bone sick from this. And we have to get our arms around them. Now, we're no longer able to bring them into county jail to get their bodies dried out and have a judge order them into drug treatment, because they no longer have the potential penalty of going to jail for a longer term. So that's tricky in California. It makes it very, very difficult for these folks to get in a drug treatment program. So they are truly killing themselves. But for years, the states did okay. They did okay with mental illness and the resulting homelessness. The Kennedy administration brought it to the federal level because John Kennedy's sister suffered from mental illness. It's never really been quite the same since then. President Reagan tried to move it back out to the states. Now in California, it's largely a county issue, and the wheels grind very slowly. In Orange County, we had a period of time where we had $60 million built up in a bucket that was spendable the whole time, and it wasn't getting spent. We have to get the resources very close to people. In my city, we have a law enforcement officer who's sole mission is homeless liaison and helping to connect these people with resources, but we sometimes have a problem where they resist the resources.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes very, very difficult then to get our arms around them. Obviously, affordability of housing in California is an issue as well, but I don't think the lack of available housing is the core issue. It's more of an addiction and mental health issue. And then occasionally, you know, we have a family sleeping in a car in the library parking lot and that type of thing.
Economic hardships that cause homelessness.
True economic hardship. Yeah. Yep. And of course, the best we can do there is just try to continue to accommodate an economy that's going to grow and provide opportunity. And it's really a shame. Pre-COVID, we were down to a historically low unemployment rates and people really had options. And this thing has just been a body blow of epic proportions. It really has been difficult.
Mm-hmm. I have a question I'm going to tie into this. Do you believe the coronavirus vaccine should be free for everyone if and when it's available?
Yeah, I believe everybody should, one way or the other, should be able to access it without cost, without any impediment of cost. Okay. Whether it's their insurance plan or it's a government entity that whether it's distributed through Health and Human Services or however it comes about. Nope, cost should not be a prohibitive factor in getting the vaccine or obviously getting the therapeutics, which it wouldn't be for therapeutics. Then the question would come on vaccines, and we have some time to work on that, particularly in California. I mean, I think every state can probably do a good job of making sure that the cost doesn't stand in anybody's way, and obviously the federal government if necessary.
All right, so I have one last question. It's about climate, and it's actually a two-part question. First, do you believe the vast majority of scientists who say climate change is man-made and a significant and imminent threat?
Yeah, without question, our activity continues to be a contributing factor and has been for decades. And, you know, for a long time, the United States was one of the worst greenhouse gas emitters and CO2. Obviously, we've made tremendous strides. We're down to 14% and dropping as a percentage of the world's output. Now, there's other things going on in the climate for sure. I mean, there's cyclical things happening, and I don't know to what extent, you know, I mean, within all of that, what man is doing obviously has some impact. This stuff sits in the environment, sits in the atmosphere for decades, and that's obviously a contributing factor. We can continue to lead the world in reducing our emissions. I think technology is ultimately going to save the day. Incremental gains in renewable energy, but we have to be careful about any kind of manifestos that call for overnight change. And
so on that note, you've said many times before that you're an opponent of the Green New Deal, which I believe you're referring to. And you talk about on your website how as congressman you will, quote, oppose efforts to ask the United States, already on our way to being the lowest polluter per capita on the planet, to take drastic measures that will bankrupt employers and families in the name of new deals and phony treaties and accords, end quote. Do you believe the fact that we are a lower polluter than some other country means no drastic measures against climate change need to be taken? Or is it important to you that the United States lead the world in developing cleaner, more modern forms of energy, even if we are currently a lower polluter?
It's very, very important that we continue to lead the way, but I don't think it has to involve anything drastic. We still have 15% of our elderly people in colder areas of the country that underheat their home at night to the detriment of their health. We have people leaving California because they can't afford the energy prices. We have businesses running out of here like their hair is on fire because they can't pay for the energy. We have about 3.5 million, tragically, 3.5 million people around the world that die from asphyxiation trying to heat their homes, burning twigs and cow manures. And that's just, I mean, reality is that our world needs fossil fuels for the foreseeable future. Now, we've got clean energy, clean natural gas that's getting cleaner and cleaner. Coal, while it's still with us, is getting cleaner and cleaner. And there's even some technologies that show promise to capture all the CO2 emissions from burning coal. That's my point about technology. We're going to have to keep working on recapture. Right now, it's very, very expensive, but we're going to have to keep working on those things. There's no chance that renewables can get us to a point where we can be fossil fuels free within 10 years. It's just not doable. It would be a life and death issue in our country in terms of the impact it would have. And it would completely crush any economic opportunity for you and your fellow students.
All right. Brian Maryott, candidate for California's 49th. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. Good luck in November.
Patrick, thank you. Enjoyed being on with you.